You better
What
get it together.
is shaking, y'all? It is episode 189, Golden Mike Live. We're getting naked today, baby. We're getting naked. And what is going on with you, Shelley Brown?
Oh,
What?
oh, hi. Hi. I'm hiding. I'm hiding my authenticity. Oh my God. Wait. I didn't know that we were going to start. Okay. Here we are. Okay. Hi. Happy Friday. What's going on, Golden Mike people?
Woman, there better be tape underneath that because
Okay.
because
Okay. Here.
I've had 189 episodes. You know why I have had 189 episodes?
Why?
Because you cannot cancel me. But if something happens here, if we have a wardrobe malfunction,
No, no, no.
I'm canceled. So
Okay. Give me count to five. Count to five. Count to five.
okay,
Seriously.
one, two. Where are you going, Brown?
I'm dressed.
Oh my God, woman! Oh my God, woman! It is a
I don't know
golden
what my
mic.
hair looks like. Okay.
Your hair looks great. It is Friday, November
Very
14th.
important.
Golden Mike Live with Shelley Brown. Shelley Brown. Oh, look at him already hitting the heart. Antonio, you pervert. He hit the heart 10 times already. Just keep hitting that heart. Shelley Brown, this is the deal. We met a couple weeks ago and it was like instantaneous energy. You had to fast track on the show. We got you on the show. Basically 20 years working for a bunch of different companies and now a rock star mindfulness speaker. So we're gonna talk about that plus like what exactly is this naked energy. I thought it was we were gonna get raw, and then all of a sudden you show up in a towel and you screw with me, Brown. You screw
Hey,
with me, Brown.
I know you expected that, but you
Did-
didn't expect the wig and the coat.
the wig and the coat was very a very nice touch. And then when you disappeared, I was legitimately scared. I'm gonna have to watch the replay of this to see how scared my face was. Um, for those of you, we're gonna get to Shelley's story in a second. But for those of you watching, my name is Mark Cordone. I'm a positive psychology coach. I am the founder of the Make Money Coaching Academy and the Joy Revolution. Put that fist up, baby. Now this is the thing. I get to ask on a regular basis to my guests, to my friends, to whoever will listen, two questions. The questions are these. And Shelley Brown, I want you to answer them. How happy are you today and how much are you living in your purpose?
I am extremely happy, and I am definitely living in my purpose even more and more and more every day.
All new. This guy Antonio cannot stop hitting the heart button. Antonio, bring it to 100, dude. Bring it to 100. I want to see. I want to see 100 likes before the first 5 minutes of the show. Let's break a record here. Yeah, for those of you who are happy, it's a Friday. We've been having a great week of the show returning. Shelley, you're the perfect person to wind the week down or to wind everybody up. And so if you're feeling good, you're living in your full purpose, like Antonio Ionescu is. Give us those hearts, people. Whether it's live or the replay,
Give them
give
up,
us the
give them
hearts.
up,
Let
give them
us
up.
give me that heartbeat. Show me that heartbeat. Yeah, George, I see you liking it,
Hey,
buddy.
George,
It's
I
good
met
to
you yesterday. Hi,
Yes,
George.
yes, we are a
Oh my
family
God,
here.
George, come on. Yeah.
George, hit the heart, or she might take off more clothes, or she might put on more clothes, depending on what you don't want. So, here's the deal. Here's the deal. A lot of people in positive or think positive psychology is about shits and giggles 24/7. Walt likes it. Walt likes what he sees.
Walt,
Walt,
Walt. And hey, I've got the biggest heart that you probably didn't even know I had. But anyway, go on.
the show is going off the rails right now, but we're almost at 100 hearts, so I don't give a crap. George, what's up? Hey now, George. A lot of people think positive psychology is 24/7 happiness. If you're 24/7 happy, Tal Ben Shahar says this: you're one of two things. You're either a psychopath or you're dead. Because life is about the ups, the downs, and the all arounds of this roller coaster that Shelley's going to talk about today. This roller coaster, baby. So if you're like on a Friday and you're like, you guys need to calm it the fuck down right now because I'm not happy. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Or you're saying to yourself, "Yo, Brown, I've been in this job for 30 years and like I'm falling out of my purpose. I don't know what to do." That's cool too. That's a part of your history that you're creating. That's a part of your story. Your heart beats just like Shelley, mine, George, Antonio, Walt's, everybody's. So give us a thumbs up if you're just living life right now. And let this wash over you. Let us entertain you today, okay? Now here's the last piece. I've been waiting for you to do this one, Brown. It's about hope. Hope, not from the standpoint of wishing that things will happen in your life, hoping things will just happen and someone will just drop into your life. No, we make it happen because we have clarity and we walk towards it. Those who have that kind of hope have are just as impactful as those with high IQs and high EQs. Antonio, don't stop hitting that heart. Let's get it to 200 now. So if you're hopeful, like Shelley and I want you to hit another thing aside from the heart. I want you to hit that wow face. And Shelley, I want to see what your wow face looks like right now. Let's do it, baby. Ah, you're scaring me. You're amazing. So let's get right into this. Tell me your story. What's going on?
Awesome. Thank you so much. I am really, really, really thrilled to be here. And, anyone who's listening to this who really doesn't have hope, if you're listening to it, you actually do have a corner of hope. And that's what's always kept me going. When I thought that I didn't have hope, there was a corner of hope that was always, always there, because otherwise I wouldn't be. And my philosophy is that life is really a freight train to a roller coaster down a rabbit hole. And that we have the opportunity to get off this train again, again, and again, and again, because the train keeps on going. But I do want to share, I spent a lifetime of what I call like living in this paper bag. And the more people reached in, the more I retreated in this world of feeling really stuck in my life. So anybody out there who feels stuck, there really is no such thing as being stuck, but oftentimes when we do feel stuck, when people reach out to help us out of that place, to show us possibilities, to show us choices, we don't want to see it. So we're like, I'm stuck. You don't understand. I'm stuck. And we retreat further into this place of stuck. And so, you know what? I lived my life, most of my life, in a save me, rescue me, help me, when the whole time it is really inside of us. And yes, other people can steer us along, give us these aha moments. Mm-hmm. But when I was a little kid, I wanted to be Barbie, a paper doll, or a flight attendant, or a Playboy bunny. Those were my aspirations, because I had a feminist mom who was never home, and my role models were these women who were stay-at-home moms. This was in the 70s, wholly aging myself, but it's the truth. And all I wanted was to be anything but that. So as this little creative kid playing with my Barbies, coloring, singing, this really, really creative child that my parents didn't really understand and didn't know what to do with this. So they kind of steered me in a particular direction. So I ended up in this sort of corporate life and always feeling like personally and professionally, I was wandering through life, going to the identity clothing stores, wearing different identities rather than being naked. And that's why I use that expression naked, because whether it's career or whether it's personal, I went around and it was either the guy I was with, the marathon I was running, how thin I was, what my body looked like, the job I had, the title I had, the salary I was making, everything to have a sense of identity in my life, because I thought there was nothing else. And the only me that I really knew before life kind of swept me away was that little girl playing Barbies, playing with paper dolls, singing and doing that stuff. And I am more like her now than I ever was in my whole life because I got naked. So that's a quick version. Life is still a freight train to a roller coaster down a rabbit hole. I found mindfulness after a serious, serious spinal injury where I literally was almost incapable of walking, in chronic pain, dating a guy who'd become a drug addict, losing my job, losing my dog. And yeah, I know there's a lot of people who go through a lot worse,
Yeah.
but it was that, what the fuck is happening? What am I going to do? Throat gripping, crazy fear. Like, I don't know what to do now. I don't know what to do. I'm afraid to leave the house. I can't sleep at night. I've had insomnia for a year and a half now. I had spinal surgery. And I was in this whole central nervous system response of fight or flight, and I
Total fight
didn't
or
know
flight.
what
Yeah.
the fuck was happening to me. And that's how I came to mindfulness.
Well, it also sounds this when it came to your identity, especially when you were growing up, your identity was contextualized by your outside world,
Right.
and so part of your identity was a persona or a mask that you put on. Like I love the idea of you'd go to the identity clothing store because I can
Right.
totally relate. Like I was actually talking to George about this yesterday because I'm really shedding this identity of being a people pleaser, right? And but depending on what scenario I was in, a different mark would show up, and I never even knew when I got home and I was by myself, and I tried to take off the mask. Like, who the hell am I? Who the hell am I outside of those
Yeah.
contexts, right? So let me ask you this. Ooh, Walt's really knocking it out of the park. Walt, give us some love. Hit those hearts. We're getting to 200 today. Walt goes stuck equals looping thoughts driven by beliefs that don't serve us. Walt, we need to have you back on the show,
That
baby.
is right on. Right
Yeah,
on.
and then he says naked shedding ego created identities that are not who we truly are. Again, Walt, hit that heart. Get us to 200. Now, I wanted to ask this: spinal injury, insomnia. You don't know who the fuck you are. How did you get naked?
So it's a little bit more involved. So after my spinal fusion, I had a lumbar spinal fusion. I'd been an ultra marathoner. I ran 26 marathons, 6 ultra marathons, numerous half marathons, was teaching, 6 spin classes a week. And it was Shelley the runner, Shelley the runner, Shelley the runner. That was my, identity clothing that I was wearing at that time. So anyway, I ended up having the spinal fusion, and I was still in that fight or flight response. And it took me a really long time with the practice of mindfulness to really realize that we are not anything that we think we are. We are just who we are. And, when we can quit apologizing for the ways that we think we fall short,
Mm-hmm.
that's when we can be unapologetically us. And the naked part is exactly, was it Walter George? I mean, it really is this kind of great striptease of these identities that life puts on us, or we put on ourselves. And it's usually the things that are between our ears, our head. And so when we stop believing the crap that our minds think, then we get to really, really fall in love with ourselves naked. And then we
Yeah.
get to show up better for other people.
Yeah. Now, I would come back and say easier said than done, right? Because the crap that gets in our head becomes so unconscious, right? And one of our cohort members this week, Schmerin, was talking about that sort of unconscious piece. Now, for you, how did you either remove that crap or rewire that crap?
Yeah.
And because mindfulness, it's now it's a hot topic, mindfulness, right? But when you came into it, it might have been on the rise. It might have been sort of like this thing that people were
Uh-huh.
saying, like early adopters were taking on. What was that like to be like, oh, I think, or was it like, I think mindfulness is the way to, do this striptease that you were talking about.
Okay, great question. So I was at work one day and I had had a string of really stressful crappy jobs. And I think we all bring sort of a baseline of stress from our lives into work. And then whatever's happening at work that enhances that stress, it depends on, what that baseline is on how we react to it. So one day I'm sitting in my office, I read an email, I take it out of context, and within hearing distance of 25 people, I throw off my headset and I go, I fucking hate this place. And I literally had what someone perceived to be a nervous breakdown.
Yeah.
I got put on PIP and then I was fired. Because putting somebody with anxiety on performance improvement plan just, put my anxiety on overload. Ended up getting fired, went to a mindfulness-based stress reduction program. And I was skeptical, but I had TED talked myself, therapied myself, self-talked myself, self-help booked myself, and still couldn't get it together. It was the central nervous system response that just brought me into this crazy reactivity, this sort of emotional imbalance where everything was like a threat to my system and everything was a reaction. So I was skeptical. I thought that mindfulness and meditation were for tea drinking yogis. And I was like, hey man, I'm an ultra marathoner. I'm like this accomplished sales chick. I'm a corporate person. I'm a tough ass. I'm a badass. I'm not going to do this mindfulness shit. But you know what? I went to that program and I meditated my ass off because it settled my soul. And then from there, I just kept devouring more books, ended up working with a former monk that was teaching the Google program, Search Inside Yourself, started working with him one-on-one. He does a certification. I started taking mindful self-compassion classes that, Kristen Neff, she's selfcompassion.org, and just really, really, really learning to love myself. And one other thing, and I know I'm talking a lot, when you hear that voice going, stop it, stop it, stop it, and you realize it's coming from you, you're like, oh, that was who was screaming that all along. Stop doing that shit to myself. And I listened.
So you're talking about intuition then. Like intuitively, you knew you were doing some shit to yourself, right?
Yes.
Walt, if I had the phone on right now, we'd have you call in right now, Walt. But Walt is talking about mindfulness and meditation and how it helps create more space between our thoughts, right? And so, it also feels like what I'm hearing is like almost like this kind of jumbled mess and just really tightly wound, and to just kind of unwind that to the point where you said what's the term that I had to write it down, your soul was settled. You felt your soul settling. Now for those of us who are still in this fight or flight mode, what was it that how could you describe the soul settling that you felt?
Well, first I'll address it scientifically. So when we're in a CNS response mode, we're not processing through our prefrontal cortex. You know this, Mark. And the prefrontal cortex is the thing the part of our brain that deciphers, what's a threat, what's real, what's not real. And we go into this stress response. Everything is processed through the amygdala, and we're not discerning about what the input is that's coming into our brain. So all the stimulus coming in is treated like a threat. So really our wires get crossed. And one of the most important things to realize, it doesn't take spinal injury. It could be just sustained stress. And when we're under that sustained stress, our wiring gets crossed, and it's not just a cognitive thing, so we can't address it from just a cognitive perspective. It has to be physiological. And just the breath itself, it really, really changes things. And over a sustained period of time, it changes the gray matter in the brain, and it sort of resets that wiring. So when, I talk about like being that unjumbled kind of, it literally is from the formal practice of meditation, breathing anchor, and the informal practice where you're literally becoming a witness to your thoughts, and you get to decide, is this cray-cray? Is this true? Am I going to react to this? Everything becomes a choice, and choice is freedom.
That's what I wrote down as well. Is I was like, oh, she's getting the choice then. From the just being able to get out of that fight or flight, which is either run away or be stuck and be prey to something, you understand that you are a conscious creator and you get to choose what you yeah, I get to be somewhat smart every now wise every now and then too. I'm not going to show my gigantic tat on my back though.
Part of the journey, part of the
Part
journey,
of the
one of the identities.
well, I want to ask you this too. So we get into mindfulness and uh, very whether you want to call it the Herb Benson technique or breathing mindfulness, whatever, box breathing. You're going into a wellness response now, right? And you called that like your soul settling. Now, when you felt that soul settling, my assumption is that you didn't get naked yet. That was like the beginning of getting naked,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So what happened after that? Like once you're like, yes, I found something that worked. It wasn't a band-aid. I'm not cray cray. Or maybe I am cray cray and I choose it. Where does it go from there when you start going into the really living life, as your unapologetic self?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I will address it in two parts. One, I think that if you just say that mindfulness is all about that, it is so much more than that. That's like, using your cell phone only to make calls. I mean, mindfulness is so much more than that. And one of the things that it's really, really powerful for is it's the foundation of self-awareness. So when you think about your feeling tones and your body sensations, and you really are kind of slow down enough to see where something is hitting you in the gut or the heart and it's not aligned with who you are and your values, you get to course correct and make sure that you're in alignment with your values. And the second part of your question is it's an unfolding, and sometimes, like, as an entrepreneur, as a human being, there's no straight shot to this.
Not at all.
Takes some real freaking ugly dips
Yeah,
into some dark places sometimes. And,
absolutely.
nobody arrives at mindfulness. You're never like, I can't even, when people say they're a mindfulness teacher, I'm like, no, you're not. You can't teach anyone else to be mindful. It's a practice. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
you can't teach somebody mindfulness. You can help invite them to skills. You can help invite them to a practice. But anyway, these dips and these lows, when you get to sit there in your own suffering and like say, what's hurting me? What is suffering? Why am I hurting? And, a lot of it had to do with what a lot of women suffer with, the exterior, like
Sure.
having to hide whatever, they're apologizing for what society or whoever else deems that something's wrong. And I've done a fuckload of apologizing for what this looks like.
Mm,
And it's painful. And that's the voice inside of me that says, stop it, stop it, stop it. You know what? Don't get mad at yourself for getting old. Thank yourself for getting old. Thank the world, thank God, thank whoever that you have the opportunity to age. Thank your body that you have two legs, two arms. Practice that gratitude around what this exterior person has done, and more importantly, what this interior gets to do and live inside out. And when I realized that I could live inside out because my heart is so freaking expansive and all I really want to do is love other people, that's when I got to really be naked. But it's a process.
yeah. So let me ask you this. You talked about mindfulness as being the core of self awareness.
Yep.
What were some of the first realizations that that kind of the illusion started going away, right? And you were beginning to see, you're beginning to become aware of certain things. What were some of those things that you were becoming aware of?
Well, again, that fear and worry
Hmm.
about aging, it was a big one.
Okay.
Losing time in the present because I'm worried about what I see in the mirror. Not even what I think about what I see in the mirror. Losing time to that and having these painful moments and going like, what am I doing? I'm wasting this precious time that I have that I could be, you know, engaging with other people,
Yep.
nurturing my friendships and relationships,
Yep.
loving on my dog, loving on other people, and being so into myself that I'm not extending myself outwards into connection, which is my favorite thing on the planet, right?
Mm.
Is this helping bring some clarity to it?
Absolutely. Oh, it absolutely is. And I mean, I think, um, Walt's our third member today because Walt's talking about awareness as being the beginning of true
Yeah,
change, and then
yeah,
change, according to Joe Dispenza, sort of being the balance between intention and surrender, right?
right,
So,
right.
I'm seeing you go like this. I feel like you're vibing with Walt and everything that's going on right now, Shelley. Right?
Yeah.
I'm curious about this. I'm curious about the lessons learned now. Uh, we talked about this once on the phone, sort of Barney and going bald,
Oh
and
my
some of your
God.
lessons learned from that. Like, uh, tell me more about, tell all of us more about that.
Okay, so one thing I want to do first is talk about work. Then I'm going to come back to Barney. So I realized, it's not always the work that, we can't just blame this shitty culture, this bad boss, this bad leader.
Yeah.
We all have a responsibility for our own well-being. And so until we can have these perfect cultures with these embodied mindful leaders where everybody is, kind of empowering each other and helping each other to shine, we all have a way to bring a better us to take care of ourselves at work through the practice of mindfulness. And so, yes, I would love every company to adopt, a mindful culture. But until then, I invite people to cultivate this practice to help them in every area of their lives. Now to
Yeah.
the Barney story.
Well, and
Go ahead.
you're talking about mindfulness as a proactive approach to self care versus
Right.
sort of the way that it's viewed right now, where self care is a very reactive thing. After you've had all these microaggressions at work, after you haven't had the tools to practice mindfulness, then you have this explosion, and you're deemed to go on a performance plan, right? And so, like, in many ways, it makes sense to put folks on a proactive health plan.
Mark, everybody has at least distraction at a minimum, right?
Mm.
There is, whether you're happy as can be and life is great, you're still going through your cell phones. You're still worried about the future. You're still regretting the past. Everybody has guilt. Everybody has remorse. Everybody has worry. And at a minimum, everyone has distraction. So you don't have to have a nervous breakdown to want to have a skill that kind of settles your soul.
Absolutely.
The thing is, a lot of people are out there introducing it as just meditation. And, the 25-year-old dude who thinks he's too cool for it is going to be like, ew, turn off. So I actually use rock music to introduce mindfulness. And I really talk about, paying attention specifically to one instrument. And that's like the present moment, the present
Very cool.
conversation you're having,
Very
the
cool.
kid your child that you're talking to, and so I use rock music, and there's a specific exercise that I do. It's something that I thought of, but anyway, yeah. So the Barney thing. Uh, a few years ago, I asked my hairdresser to come over to dye my hair purple, and he left the house and he told me to wash my hair in 45 minutes, but he didn't tell me to wash it in the sink. So I go in the shower, I wash my hair, I open my eyes, and everything I see is purple. The walls are purple, the shower curtain's purple, my body's purple, and I'm like a smurf of a different ethnicity, dude. Like, really? I'm like, oh, holy grape jelly. And I go in the mirror and I'm like, I'm purple. I am fucking purple. And so I'm like, what am I going to do? I'm going to have to gut the bathroom. I'm going to have to like get a new tub, new tile. Everything is purple. And
Or
I'm
you could
like,
put on a little white hat. La la la
no, really? I know. Thank you. I forgot the
la.
theme song.
Live in a
Now it's
mushroom.
going to be in my head all day. I really appreciate it. Are there words to that song, by the way?
I have no idea.
Oh my God, now I'm gonna have to Google. So anyway, I washed my face with Tide, tried to get the purple off. Long story short, I had to go to the hairdresser, a different one, the next day to strip my hair. On the way to the hairdresser, I run into my ex-husband that I hadn't seen in 5 years, and he's like, "Of course she's purple. I mean, like, of course. Why wouldn't she be? That's Shelley. She's purple now. Okay,
Amazing.
I'll roll with it."
Amazing.
So I go to the hairdresser and they can't strip the hair. They try and it turns into this like green screwed up color and I'm sobbing. I go home, my girlfriend comes over and she goes, that's her expression when she sees my hair. So I'm like, all right, that's it. And I go over to Supercuts and they shave my head bald and as the hair is falling from my head, I had the biggest aha moment that it's only hair. It is only hair. And who cares?
Mm-hmm.
And then I run into my ex-husband again, and he's like, oh, okay, now she's bald. She was purple yesterday, now she's bald today.
G.I. Jane in the house.
And I
There is something freeing about because obviously like I even use my hair as a part of my market as my brand, right? But there's been several times where it's just like fuck this shit. I'm taking a bic to it. And there's something very freeing about just being like, oh, like, I don't know how to describe it, but I think that the way that you were describing it was great. Like we're so caught up in oh, I gotta fix it, I gotta fix it, I gotta fix it. Yeah, just take it off. It's just
yeah,
hair.
it was very freeing. It was very freeing. The thing is, it's like, if you do stuff for you, not at you, there's a big difference.
Tell me about the difference.
When you do stuff at yourself, it's because you're mad, because something's wrong with you, because, your hair's not good enough, your body's not good enough, your boobs aren't big enough, whatever. These things that people do and guys do stuff, whatever guys do, whether it's, to go to the gym every minute or I don't know,
Boob's
but
not big enough for us too.
right.
Yeah.
When it's at you, like because you're mad that something's unacceptable about you, there's a big difference than doing stuff for you. Like my pink hair or whatever. I did it for me. I don't care what anyone else thinks. Coming on with a wig and a coat on. I mean, it's unapologetic. I don't have to apologize because I do things, for me, not at me anymore.
And
And the hatred that I used to have towards myself was insidious.
yeah, and you know what? There's someone who's coming on the show next week, Ben Tapper, and I think I wanted to bring up one of his practices, which I think is very much in line with what you're doing. Complete and utter radical self acceptance and self love. That's what I'm hearing was happening. Is just sort of being like, I need to be this sort of presentation. I need to be sort of this, sort of that, and then just being like, no, like let it go.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah, go for it.
I volunteer and do guided meditation at a place where people get treated for cancer and they can stay in this home that's 30 outside if they live outside 35 miles of Baltimore, and I volunteer there. And one of the hardest things for people to practice is this loving kindness and compassion towards themselves, especially when you're facing illness, because you're angry at your very own body for doing something that's against you. And how do you invite self-compassion and self-love when your body's like against you? And it's amazing the resilience that we have when we least expect to be able to have it.
Yeah.
And it's amazing the gentleness and kindness and compassion that we can invite to our own selves when we just let go.
That's amazing. look, you started on this journey. Well, this has been a lifelong journey. But when was it that you kind of felt that that soul ease that you were talking about? Maybe 15 years ago, 10 years ago.
No, not even that long.
Oh,
It's
really?
it's
Okay.
no, no. It's been like 3 years.
Okay, so 3 years of practice is still a decent amount of mastery journey, right? Um, and so you had some initial breakthroughs, right? But my thought is, since you called it a journey, you're still having breakthroughs. So 3 years in, what are the breakthroughs that you're having now versus the breakthroughs you were having then?
Well, I think the breakthrough for me has been pulling all the different sides of myself together. So when I first started thinking about my business and doing mindfulness for workplaces, it was still this like wearing the corporate mask.
Hmm.
Like, okay, I have to be Miss Mindful and do this corporate workplace. And then I felt like something was missing. Like part of me was missing. And then I had this Facebook person. I do these crazy collage art. I make these, write these crazy fun stories that are really like these kind of observational stories that are from a freight train to a roller coaster down a rabbit hole. And oh, that's what I was supposed to learn. Yay. You know what I mean? And so how do I draw this all together? And so the breakthrough the most recent one has been like, you know what? I can bring it all together. And that's why I'm actually going to rebrand from ROI mindfulness, which was real time observations and insights, to naked mindfulness. And
Straight up,
yeah,
this is a full on rebrand going on right here.
yeah,
Amazing, amazing, and so like this is really talking about the mindfulness as going into a place of full integration, human integration. Talk. I mean, talk.
100%.
I want to hear more about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So most of my life, and I think a lot of people can identify, we feel very fragmented.
Yeah.
And I always felt like I was just suffering so much, like I was little pieces of glass strung together by this very fragile thread, and that thread could snap at
Yep.
any second. And I felt, disintegrated.
Mm-hmm.
So coming to a place where I can be fully integrated, I don't have to have this, you know, corporate mindfulness thing, this weird girl. That's the moniker that my stories are written under, weird girl. And I don't have to have these collages that are quirky little stories. I can be a quirky roller coaster freight train naked mindfulness, facilitator, and help other people realize that they can integrate. They can come together from feeling so disintegrated, and that all the pieces of who they are just who they are. And
And
to not apologize for that.
and you know what I love about your story is it's probably and for those of you watching live or the replay, if you can think back to a point in your childhood, there was that's oftentimes when the fracture happens, right? So like it's such a great way that when I asked you your story in a very open ended, I didn't even know you're doing a rebranding way, you talked about sort of the fracturing that was happening, and it was
Yeah.
like multiple pieces. It was almost like life was hammering on you, and it was just breaking and breaking and breaking and breaking. And then as you're talking about reintegrating, you didn't know it, right? You're slowly reintegrating. You were talking about feeling whole with the collective, right? Like not only yourself, but it's more than yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I see you as you were just talking about like the little things like where you're volunteering and stuff like that. That's ultimate integration when it's the illusion between you and another human. The difference between Mark and Shelley is not that we're going woo as shit right now, but like it's not that wild. Like we really
No.
are part of this living, breathing ecosystem, and
Yeah.
one that lives in harmony. And when we feel disintegrated from it, that's when we feel loneliness, and that's when
Oh,
we feel like our breathing
yeah.
gets shallow because we're not a part of the system. even though what was yelling at you the whole time was telling you, this, you are a part of the system. Just stop doing this shit.
But
That's what I'm
then,
hearing from your story.
yeah, and then you retreat more because you want to buy that lie. No, 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 you can't help me. I'm disintegrated. No, 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 I'm stuck. No, 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 this is where I am, and I'm not going to reach my arms back out to, because you're extending yours, but I can't get out because this is what it is, and I'm stuck here. And I actually wrote a poem a few years ago. It was, I only remember parts, but it was shattered pieces, broken glass, kicked in heart, fell on ass, pieces of myself I once knew, cracked and broken, held by glue. And the last line is, done dying, the glue is drying. And so that's all these pieces that come together, you know?
So let me throw this out there for you, because I think this is a matter of semantics, but also you caught me off guard with the rebrand, Mama.
Yeah.
So the idea of owning up to the fact that I think I very much relate to weird girl, weird boy, right? But also at the same time, I very much feel like I'm on a journey to being complete and whole, unapologetic, and also being in harmony and balance with the just the world and the universe, right? Weird implies that you kind of stick out like a sore thumb from that harmony and balance. Talk to me about it.
Nah, we're all weird in our own way, and weird is not the more weird we are, the more we realize that we are so much like everybody else. It's almost like a misnomer, you
Yes.
know, and we may have different sort of plays that we act in, but it's so identifiable. And when I started this weird girl blog, or that I was writing, the thing that was the best part at first was the relatability. So
Oh,
many people related, and it's a shared gift. That's the biggest gift, you know. You can call it connection, but it's really like relatability. And it's also the, oh my God, she said exactly what I was thinking. That's a huge gift. But also giving people hope is probably, you know, what I think a lot of my stories do, and that is a huge gift as well.
I love it, and I love the fact that you don't try to you don't try to you don't try to dance around the words. It's like, yeah, it's a paradox, and most of the things that we live in are paradoxes. But one of the illusions that I feel about the world is that the world is a polarized place. It's actually not. It's a very unified place. And so when you own that you're gloriously unique, you're completely different than anything else. You're one in a gazillion. Everyone can relate to that,
Yeah.
right? So the paradox makes complete sense when you say it. I love the whole naked energy and stuff. I was like, man, she's really well thought out. No wonder, because you branded this. You're rebranding.
I just thought of it the other day. I
Okay,
literally just thought of it the other day.
it's awesome. Congratulations,
Thank you.
Mattel. Marlboros, marathons, meltdown, to mindfulness. I think that's the whole route that we've looked at, right? Um,
Motorcycles.
and a big ass tattoo, which is a which is
Men,
which
men, men, men.
men. And between each one of those is a man, right? And then also,
A cigarette.
and then between each of that is sort of the calmness and peace. You turn up the rock music on people, right? So I want to get to that really quickly again, because you talked about it, and like I thought that was a really deep thing. And to, if you could explain it out a little bit more, because we went right to the other point, and I was like, wait, bring this back for a second. Talk about that rock music again,
Sure.
because it is such a good metaphor for the noise in life, and what not meditation, what mindfulness can do.
100%.
So talk to me about it. Yeah.
Yep. So first of all, I don't think that you need to be this calm, like, you know, sitting on a lotus flower with your legs crossed meditator. I'm a type A. I'm high energy. I will never lose my energy. And so I wanted to invite people to think about mindfulness without it being like, okay, like everybody else does, which is, okay, everybody, I invite you to close your eyes and think about your breath and just really try to focus on it. That's what everybody does. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's meditation. Meditation is the only part of mindfulness. So what I do with music, there's a song by the Stones, and this is trademarked, you people out there, so don't even try to steal it. You hear me? Do you hear me? This is my shit. Don't fuck with me. Anyway, excuse me. Let me take a breath. So I invite people to close their eyes as if I'm going to invite them to meditate. And then I play one of the songs I use is Give Me Shelter by the Rolling Stones. And I play it for about 30 seconds. And then I ask them, okay, go ahead and open your eyes. What did you notice? And people say, oh, I noticed music. Oh, I noticed Mick Jagger. Oh, I love that song. Oh, isn't that about rape? But anyway, I don't even get to the lyrics. But it goes, rape, murder. It's just a shot away. Anyway,
Okay.
so, but that's not the part I use. So then I invite people to specifically listen to an instrument called a gyre. It's a hollowed out board, and it goes, and I can play it on Spotify if you want, but I invite them to listen for another minute, and I ask them to specifically pay attention to that instrument. And then I ask them to open their eyes, and then I ask them, what did you notice? And people will say, oh, yeah, I could really hear it. And, oh, I had a really focused attention to that. Or, oh, I got distracted. Or, oh, you're pretty crazy, or whatever. And I'm like, awesome. Let's do it one more time. And when you get distracted by your thoughts, by your hunger, by she's crazy, by any distractions, come back again and again and again to that instrument. So basically what I'm trying to illustrate is that instrument is your awareness, your present moment focus and awareness. And that is like life. The conversation you're having with your cute ass little boy who is so gorgeous, your spouse, your employee, the difficult conversation, the pain you're feeling, whatever it is, the rest of it is distraction. And that is what happens in life. It's the worry, it's the fear, it's the numbing out, it's anything that you're doing, thinking, or what's going on sense-wise that's taking you away from this moment.
Oh, I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it.
Thank you.
It's you're breaking it down into sort of the power of noticing, and I only said this to one other person before in terms of being in a public space, but like as I've gotten a little bit older, I've realized how much I don't notice anymore, right? And so I was thinking back to when I was a kid, and when it was my mom would walk me about a block to my preschool, but it would take us about an hour to get there because I would stop. And I remember we lived in Florida, and we'd look at it was around January, and I saw the first frozen things on the leaves, and she stopped, and we got to look at it and notice it. And that's what I and then I knew I was ready to leave my job at in higher education, because I worked there for 13 years, and I never even noticed anything. I just got out of the car and just walked to the office, not even knowing the flowers were changing and stuff like that, not even noticing that I was walking by students every single day and not saying hi or any. I was completely broken off from the world, and I was in my own place. And I love the fact that you can just take it back to a.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? That's what. Sorry, Mark.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, that's exactly what's happening to us when we're dealing with anxiety, when we're dealing with depression, when we are, we're taken by these thoughts. I'm not talking about clinical psychiatric problems and stuff, but I'm talking about, when we are so into what's going on with the self in the mind, we're not really noticing what's right now. If you've ever felt depressed before and you feel like the world is gray, it's usually because there's so many distracting thoughts going on that you are incapable of seeing the beauty of what's right here. Nothing, like, you don't notice how beautiful things are because you're inward, not outward. And I ran a lot of marathons without ever seeing anything or anybody, and could have been anywhere in the world because I wasn't present.
Mm, amazing, amazing. I just wanted to ask this of you. I mean, it's the kind of transformation that we're seeing is, someone who is uh, I would say kind of fractured, right? To moving to integration. Someone who was insecure to moving to secure. Someone who was kind of an automaton, right? Moving towards being gloriously unique, right? And there's so much transformation in your story. But also at the same time, on a day to day, I want to know about Shelley Brown. Like, what is it that, like, I think people might get the impression that, oh, she's not worried about anything, or she no longer thinks about image, or she no longer thinks about outcomes, or anything like that. And I loved when you were like, "Shit's trademarked, by the way, everybody. I got legal dibs on it." Right? Because it's like, woo, we bring it back to the normal world again, or not that this is abnormal what we're talking about, but what what are those? Let's get even more naked. Like, what are those vulnerabilities that you're feeling now?
You know, I guess with what I really want to do with my career is probably really the only area, that sometimes I wish, I crave.
Yeah.
I have cravings about having more speaking gigs, about being in front of more people, having the opportunity to share this message. And that's really it. This is my passion. And so I think that the most vulnerable part is, will I have the opportunity, when I have those thoughts of, will I really have the opportunity to share this, to continue sharing this? And will I have the possibilities of being invited to continue to share this? But I also know, Mark, and you know this, when you open it up, it comes to you. So I have to remember to let go of those worries. I have to remember to let go of those insecurities, because those will only close up
Right.
the possibilities that will come to me,
Right.
unless I stand here and I claim it. I
Right.
claim that the world is going to bring this
Right.
to me. I claim that the world is going to bring these possibilities.
Baby, the river is swift and wide and benevolent, and when we just ride it, it's a beautiful thing. Getting naked with you, Shelley Brown. Now that I've got all your websites, so I don't even know if ROI Mindfulness is where we go now. Do we still go there for the time being?
You do
Okay.
ROI Mindfulness,
Okay.
and also on Instagram
On
at ROI
Insta.
Mindfulness. And if you like quirky, fun, sassy art, go to at the glue is drying. The glue is drying. And then I'm active on LinkedIn and Facebook, probably more than anything.
Amazing, amazing. So ROA mindfulness is still temporarily around. Look out for the naked energy that's about to explode onto the
Right on.
world. Um, you are the spitting image of a guest that I dream about having on. Your quirkiness, the way you set it
I'm
up,
gonna take
the
my clothes off
remove
again.
it, take it off, take it off. I got my mankini underneath just in case we had to. Where did you go now? Oh, beautiful. Then, well, this is a beautiful time to give you the golden mic in all of your nakedness. In all of your
Okay,
nakedness. This
I'm
is the
ready for
beautiful.
it. Are we
So,
getting any more hearts, or have the hearts stopped?
no, we're getting hearts here. We're getting
Okay,
hearts.
just making sure.
And so I wanted to go to this visualization with you, and before we turn off social media, and we spend time with the ones that we care about. Let's use social media for social good. And so I want you to imagine that there is this nice, heavy golden mic that's coming down from your ceiling. Yeah, you've seen the show before, baby. And the golden mic is stopping in front of you, Shelley. Carlos had it yesterday, and he's handing it to you now. And this golden mic has the power to translate into every language and to broadcast and amplify not only to every living being across the world, but almost every sentient being in the multiverse can hear you. And while not everyone's going to pick up what you're going to throw down, there are a few people who need to hear what you're about to say. So, Shelley Brown, in all your nakedness, your golden mic is live now.
And I'm going to use a fork because I don't have a mic. And my eyes are tearing because what I really want to say, if it could be translated into every single language for every sentient being, is find a way to stop apologizing for the ways you think you fall short and be unapologetically yourself. That's that.
Now, I want you to take that golden mic in front of you. We're going to be very gentle with it today. I just want you to do a little mic drop for us because you're the last one of the week. Boom! I love it. We are back in full swing, baby. The golden mic is back. I'm back. Shelley, thank you so much for making this an amazing week of return shows. We're going to shut it down and we're going to be back again next week with more amazing guests, more amazing people doing extraordinary things like you. And
Thank
on
you.
behalf of Shelley and Mark, I have one final question. We have one final question for you. If you're feeling good and you're living life in full purpose, what is your responsibility to change history for the better? Mark Cordone, Shelley Brown, Golden Mike 189. Put your clothes back on.
Thank you.
Actually, leave them off, people. Let's walk. Let's all walk around naked. Take care. Damn, girl, that was sweet.